thousands of women, for expecting, no, insisting on absolute veneration from his pueblo. Tellingly, the national slogan was Dios y Trujillo. For running the country like it was a Marine boot camp, for stripping friends and allies of their positions and properties for no reason at all, and for his almost supernatural abilities. Outstanding accomplishments include the 1937 genocide against the Haitian and Haitian Dominican community, one of the longest, most damaging U.S.-backed dictatorships in the Western Hemisphere, and if we Latin types are skillful at anything, it's tolerating U.S.-backed dictators, so you know this was a hard-earned victory. The Chilenos and the Argentinos are still appealing. The creation of the first modern kleptocracy, Trujillo was Mobutu before Mobutu was Mobutu. The systematic bribing of American senators, and last but not least, the forging of the Dominican peoples into a modern state, did what his Marine trainers during the occupation were unable to do. No one knows whether Trujillo was the curse's servant or its master, its agent or its principal, but it was clear that he and it had an understanding that them two was tight. It was believed, even in educated circles, that anyone who plotted against Trujillo would incur a Fuku most powerful, down to the 7th generation and beyond. If you even thought a bad thing about Trujillo, fwa! A hurricane would sweep your family out to sea, fwa! A boulder would fall out of a clear sky and squash you, fwa! The shrimp you ate today was the cramp that killed you tomorrow. Which explains why everyone who tried to assassinate him always got done, why those dudes who finally did buck him down all died so horrifically. And what about fucking Kennedy? He was the one who green-lighted the assassination of Trujillo in 1961, who ordered the CIA to deliver arms to the island. Bad move, Cap'n. For what Kennedy's intelligence experts failed to tell him was what every single Dominican, from the richest Jabao and Mao to the poorest Güey en el Buey, from the oldest Anciano San Macorizano to the littlest Carajito in San Francisco, knew that whoever killed Trujillo, their family would suffer a Fuku so dreadful it would make the one that attached itself to the Admiral Jojote in comparison. You want a final conclusive answer to the Warren Commission's question, who killed JFK? Let me, your humble watcher, reveal once and for all the God's honest truth. It wasn't the mob or LBJ or the ghost of Marilyn fucking Monroe. It wasn't aliens or the KGB or a lone gunman. It wasn't the Hunt brothers of Texas or Lee Harvey or the Trilateral Commission. It was Trujillo. It was the Fuku. Where in coñazo do you think the so-called curse of the Kennedys comes from? Here's one for you conspiracy-minded fools. On the night that John Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette and her sister Lauren went down in their Piper Saratoga, John's father's favorite domestic, Providencia Paredes, Dominicana, was in Martha's Vineyard cooking up for John his favorite dish, chicharrón de pollo. But Fuku always eats first, and it eats alone. How about Vietnam? Why do you think the greatest power in the world lost its first war to a third world country like Vietnam? I mean, Negro, please. It might interest you that just as the U.S. was ramping up its involvement in Vietnam, LBJ launched an illegal invasion of the Dominican Republic, April 28, 1965. Santo Domingo was Iraq before Iraq was Iraq. A smashing military success for the U.S., and many of the same units and intelligence teams that took part in the democratization of Santo Domingo were immediately shipped off to Saigon. What do you think these soldiers, technicians, and spooks carried with them in their rucks, in their suitcases, in their shirt pockets, on the hair inside their nostrils, caked up around their shoes? Just a little gift from my people to America, a small repayment for an unjust war. That's right, folks. Fuku. Which is why it's important to remember Fuku doesn't always strike like lightning. Sometimes it works patiently, drowning a nigga by degrees, like with the Admiral or the U.S. in patties outside of Saigon. Sometimes it's slow and sometimes it's fast. It's doomish in that way, makes it harder to put a finger on, to brace yourself against. But be assured, like Darkseid's Omega effect, like Morgoth's Bane, no matter how many turns and digressions this shit might take, it always, and I mean always, gets its man. Whether I believe in what many have described as the Great American Doom is not really the point. You live as long as I did in the heart of Fuku country, you hear these kinds of tales all the time. Everybody in Santo Domingo has a Fuku story knocking around in their family. I have a 12-daughter uncle in the Cibao who believed that he'd been cursed by an old lover never to have male children. Fuku. I have a tia who believed she'd been denied happiness because she'd laughed at a rival.